What's up guys, my name is Mel and I am back with another video about how to time-lapse with your GoPro. In the last video we talked about how I mounted the cameras while I was on my last cruise. In this video I'm going to talk about how to actually set your camera up, like what are the specific settings you want to have on your camera when you go to time-lapse. First off, on my last cruise I used the Hero 7 Black and the GoPro Fusion, and I had actually told you that I did not use the Hero 8 Black because of how exposed the battery was when plugging in the GoPro for a time-lapse. Now I just got something new in the mail. Actually it came a couple weeks ago, but I wasn't able to pick it up until now. It is a specific door made by Ulanzi, I think that's how you pronounce it, that replaces the stock battery door so that you can access the USB plug. You just take off the battery door and then connect this one. It's actually pretty snug. And when you lock it in there, as you can see, the door is just, the opening in the door is just enough to plug in your GoPro. I have a plug right here. And see, once you plug it in, it's actually pretty well covered. So the next time I do a time lapse, I'm probably going to use this setup. But moving on. First, I'm going to talk about how I set up the Hero 7 Black for time-lapse. Step 1, turn it on. And if your GoPro's set up anything like mine, and it probably is, once you turn it on, it automatically goes to video mode. So what you want to do is you want to swipe to the right to get into time-lapse mode. Now, like I said in the previous video, I prefer to use time warp video because it's a time-lapse video that's stabilized. But you can also use time-lapse video, time-lapse photo, or night-lapse photo. Now if I'm going to set it to time warp video, you select that, then you select this box, and you can pick your resolution, 4K or 1080. Now because a time-lapse, even though it's recording over a long period of time, is only taking a picture every so often, to me it doesn't matter if it's 4K or 1080. I prefer to do 4K. But if you're really tight on space, then yeah, you could use 1080. Don't forget, up in this upper right hand corner you see here it's 16:9. If you hit that button, it'll switch it to 4:3 video or 16:9 video. I prefer 16:9, which gives you only 2 resolutions. If you pick 4:3 resolution, or a box that's only 4:3, then you can only choose 2.7K or 1440. But again, I like 16:9 and will stay in 4K. Field of view, there's only one option in 4K, and it's wide. And here you decide how often the camera is going to be taking a picture. Right here on the left will show you how long the video is going to be. So if it's going to be a short time lapse, then I'll pick two times as fast. But you can go all the way up to 30 times as fast. And I suggest 30 times as fast if you're going to be doing a time lapse for, say, the whole day. Generally though, I always use 2 times as fast because I can always speed it up even more in post. In time-lapse video you basically have the same settings, but the interval is not set up like the time warp video is set up. In here it's set up by how often the pictures are taken. It'll take 1 picture every half a second, it'll take 1 picture every second, every 2 seconds, every 10 seconds, and it goes up to 1 picture every minute. Pay attention to the tips here because it'll let you know how long your video is going to be. Now in time-lapse photo, I only suggest doing this if you are familiar with editing pictures in post-processing. If you have a video editing software, because you're gonna have to take every single one of these pictures, drop it in your sequence, and then decide how often or decide how fast those pictures are gonna flash through the screen. When you select your settings, again, it'll tell you how often the camera is gonna take a picture. You do have the option of using linear or wide for your field of view. And if you turn Pro Tune on, you can set all these different settings. Now this is getting into some kind of more technical things that I'm not going to go over in this video. Here you have the option of setting the ISO minimum and max. In my personal experience, when you set the ISO minimum and max, the camera tends to take pictures at the max ISO that you set. If this doesn't make any sense to you, just stick to the just stick to time warp video. It's much easier. And the camera does a pretty good job of exposing your video. Again, here you can set your EV, your white balance, the sharpness, and GoPro. You can set the color for GoPro or flat. Last option is night lapse photo. Here you can change your shutter speed. You can either pick auto interval or tell the camera how often you want the camera to take the pictures. Field of view, again, you have the option for wide and linear. In this option you can turn on raw photos. Raw photos in a GoPro show up in your file as .gpr files. So if you're wondering what that is, then there you go. When you turn the raw option on, it'll take 2 pictures at a time. It'll take a raw photo, the .gpr file, and a JPEG. Again, you can turn Pro Tune on and change the other settings. Now, when it comes to ISO max, I probably should have mentioned this before. If you're gonna use Pro Tune and you're gonna adjust the ISO max value, I wouldn't go any further than 400 or 800, because after that the photos tend to come out pretty noisy and there's just no way to fix that in post. Again, when it comes to night lapse photos, you must be familiar with how to edit photos, and if you take a time lapse for a long period of time, then you're gonna have to edit every single photo before you put it into your sequence and then stitch them together. Only do this if you have some experience editing photos and videos, and my guess is if you're watching this video, you probably don't. But leave a comment down below if you're looking for some tutorial like that. But to make things easy, I just stick to time warp video. Make sure your camera is plugged in, hit the record button, and you're ready to go. Whew. With all that out of the way, let's skip on over to the GoPro Fusion and see how we set up that camera for time-lapse. Here is the GoPro Fusion. I'll take the lens cap off so it's easier to see. Now with the Fusion, it's a little more difficult because there's only 2 buttons, the mode button and the select button. So in order to set your camera up for time-lapse, you'll have to hit the mode button here on the left side until you see this, the wrench. Select the wrench and then hit the select button until you get to the time lapse. The first option you have here is time lapse video, night time lapse photo, then time lapse photo, and then back to time lapse video. I like to set it to time lapse video. Hit the mode button again to set your resolution and your frame rate. Next button shows you how often it's going to take a picture, and then you select done. Pretty straightforward for the GoPro Fusion. Then you just hit the record button and the camera starts recording a time lapse. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about the GoPro Hero 8 Black. Since there's pretty much a big upgrade when it comes to working a time lapse. Step 1, turn the camera on. Right now you can see we're on video, so just like the Hero 7, you scroll to the right to time lapse, and then right here you select that button, which was the preferences button on the Hero 7, and then you have different options for time lapses. You can either use the stock settings or you can add one. Right off the bat, I don't need to talk about the rest of these because they're the same as in the GoPro Hero 7. You can pick time warp like that, and if you want to edit it, you hit the little pencil on the left side. Resolution, again, I like mine in 4K. Again, it's the same settings, 4K or 1080 for 16:9, and then right here on the size of the 2.7K and 1440, you can see the 4:3 resolution. I like that. And then you can either pick linear or wide by scrolling up and down. I like wide, so I'm going to leave it that way. Speed, this is an upgrade with the Hero 8 Black. You can select autos. The GoPro will decide the speed that the camera is taking pictures at. Or you can, just like in the Hero 7, select how fast you want the video to be just by scrolling up and down. I have had excellent luck using the auto speed. Really, literally, the camera does all the thinking for me. I don't have to worry about a thing. The time-lapse settings are pretty much the same, but I just want to take a minute and talk about night lapse. GoPro has made huge improvements when it comes to doing a time lapse at night. Here I can pick wide resolution 4K, that's the same. The interval, I like to set to auto. And unlike the Hero 7 Black, I can set the format to video or pictures. This way, I don't have to think about processing everything in post. Instead of getting literally 1,000 photos out of this camera, I can just get one video. Shutter speed, I like to set to auto because especially when you're taking photos at night, sometimes in order for the camera to get a good picture at night, it's gonna have to increase the shutter speed. Again, if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it, just set it to auto and let the camera do the work. Here we can select Pro Tune settings. Then you just mount your camera, hit record, don't forget to plug it in, and let the camera do all the work. And there you have it, guys, a quick tutorial on how to set up your GoPro to do a time lapse. Well, anyway, that's all I got for you today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.